Now, today I was going to talk to everyone about what is willed body gifting and what is organ donation. And, these are some things that we have to think about, all of us, whether we are young or old, it doesn't matter, because life is so uncertain. And it's good to know what it is that we want and what it is that we want our loved ones to know. So very important to tell your family and your friends, your close friends, about your wishes. If you could go to the next slide, and please. So in this, I'm going to first talk about my family. I have 3 kids. I was married to my husband for almost 40 years, 39 years this June 1st. And I've known him all my life. So he's basically my lifelong partner. And I couldn't have asked for anybody better. He was a loving husband, a wonderful father of 3 children. And if you see to the left, these are my 3 kids right around him. My first daughter, Arzu, who graduated from UCLA as a teacher. She has teaching credentials. She has a master's in teaching, in education from UCLA. And then next to her is my daughter, Armati. She's the nurse. She works in the ICU unit, used to be at John Hopkins, and now she's at John Muir. And my son, Sam, who's standing right to the left of his father. And he's an electrical engineer. And then my nephew, Cameron, who is to the right of my middle daughter. He looks like a model. I don't know where he got his good looks, but he's wonderful, beautiful child. And then her friends, and this was at her graduation in 2018. And then in 2019, my middle one, this Armati, she got married. And this is, during her marriage, she insisted on having it at our house, although I tried convincing her to go to an outside venue because it was a lot of work. And, this was the obituary that my daughter wrote for her father and published it in our local newspaper. He was an electrical engineer. Studied in India, of course, and then came to University of Notre Dame on a Fulbright scholarship. And then, got his engineering degree, worked for Intel, and then quite a few startups. And retired in his late 50s, and then started teaching history, math, and science, because that's what he loved to do. And he was a substitute teacher for Dublin High School for a while. And yeah, so, we have to think about our inevitable. And, he had to think about it too. I noticed he was not well about 3 or 4 years ago. He would cough, and since 2019, since COVID, I recall that, something was not right. And this was after we came back from India. We were stuck in India for 4 months, and my parents had just passed the year in October, and we decided to go in March. And we were stuck there for 4 months. And when we came back, he came back with this cough that wouldn't go away. And the doctors couldn't diagnose what it was. And it was always, very reactive, symptomatic diagnosis. And then in 2023, I noticed he couldn't walk, and he wouldn't tell me. And I was so busy with work, I think I didn't notice how much he was deteriorating. And he couldn't walk. And I said, okay, this is not right. If you cannot walk, we have to go to the doctor. And I am coming with you this time. So I went to the doctor with him, and I told the doctor, I think something's very wrong with him. You better diagnose him. And that's when they started really looking. And they, noted that he had fluid in his stomach. He had fluid in his chest area. And we found out eventually after, a few months of many tests and hospitalizations and such, that he had metastatic adenocarcinoma of the stomach. Now, metastasis means that it is in other areas of the body. And that's bad news. If it was only adenocarcinoma of the stomach, we could have done something, but metastasis is not a good prognosis. And it was so diffuse. It was like a diffuse small cell cancer, which is like, you know how they say small cell cancer of the lungs, etc. So this was diffuse small cell cancer. And there are no markers that we could diagnose. The doctors tried. I looked, I had second opinions, third opinions. I sent his samples out, and there were no markers really that we could treat. So it was old-fashioned treatment. And of course, the treatment was not working. They put him through 3 cycles of treatment. And eventually, the doctor called me one day and set up a meeting and said, Shanavaz, we have to stop this. And it was because he had lost, control of everything, lost, his movement. It's like his quality of life was not there. And I'd asked him to give his quality of life. I said, quality of life is more important than anything, doctor. Just, give him his quality of life. And he said, nothing is working, Shanavaz. And his cancer had spread, probably either from the treatment, not from the treatment, I don't know. And he said, best to go into hospice. And my husband agreed. And my children agreed. And my children were all here. They all came back. The one in Baltimore flew back here to take care of dad. The one in LA, who was a teacher, she was a teacher in LA. And she came back home. And my son, of course, lives in Berkeley here close to us. And they were all in this meeting, and they all agreed that they should listen to their dad's wishes and have him go into hospice. So my husband asked, he said that I want to have the option to end my life voluntarily. And I didn't know that in California, I knew that there was chatter. I knew that Oregon does it, but I did not know California had already installed this, that, you can voluntarily request end of life. And so we agreed that he should, go ahead and do whatever it is that he wants to do. And it takes a long time. It takes about 3 weeks to get the medication, but it's very calming. It's, just you take like 5 mLs of fluid and the person just goes to sleep, but you have to take it within half an hour. Otherwise, it does not work. So the Sunday that he passed, it was April 6th, and he was going to take the medication that Thursday. They were going to, bring it home on Thursday, and he was planning to take it as soon as it came in. So it was the right time for him. And before all of this, a week before all this, we knew that, the process was going on. So my children actually asked him, Dad, what do you want to do? Because he had told me he wants to be cremated. And knowing that his cancer is so rare, it is 1 in a million people that get this kind of cancer. And that's why they didn't know really how to treat it. My oldest daughter suggested, Dad, would you like to gift your body to science? And he said right away, yes. And she's from UCLA, and, she wanted to give the body to UCLA. But we had connected with this, world-renowned gastric cancer specialist in UCSF. His name is Andrew Ko. He's the nicest person that you can ever connect with. And he was there alongside us through all of this. And I suggested, why don't we give it to UCSF? They would have the means, because being in science, I know that, we kind of yearn for these kind of samples that are so rare and hard to find. They put these cells of patients into what we call formalin-fixed embedded tissues. It's called FFPE. And those we get slivers of them to work with. Means they make a block and they actually slice it with a microtome, and they give you slivers of, pieces of this tissue to work with. And I thought, if they could just put him in FFPE, and someday somebody will, find something that could at least, be a solution for one person in a million, then work is done. So we reached out to UCSF, and they have a willed program, and we donated his body to UCSF. And it was a very, very easy process. And I'd never been through it. I didn't know it. But, all we had to do is just fill out a form, get it signed by two witnesses. One can be family, one has to be outside family, uninterested witness, and send it in, and they did the rest. And I didn't realize how it would be. I just wanted to give it to science. I didn't care, how it did happen. But it was a surreal experience. When my husband passed, they asked to be called within 2 hours of passing. So the hospice had to call because he was in hospice. We let hospice know that he had passed away, and the hospice called UCSF. And they sent two people to my house. The first person came, knocked on the door within an hour. It was not even an hour. I don't even know how long it was. It seemed very soon after. And he came to the door, and he, introduced himself, and he says, I'm here to take charge of your husband's body, but, you can, if you are done, I will wait outside and just let me know when you are done. And, the kids were there, and they said, Mom, it's all right. We are done. We have talked to Dad. We have no, nothing. We are good. So I called him in. And I'd converted my entire downstairs because we have a 2-story floor. My husband was no longer able to come to our bedroom. So, I converted my entire downstairs to the hospital. Everything was around him so that it was easy for him. And anyway, he came in, and, the hearse was right behind, and he called the person in, and they came in with their gurney. And it was just so beautiful. They just, pulled his body onto this gurney and covered him up with a velvet cloth. And they just, told me that I can follow them. And it was just, the house was smelling like roses, and, everything was so beautiful. And it just felt like there was no tension. There was no tension. They made it extremely easy for me. And they took the body out, and they stood over there in my driveway, and, till I got to where, he was, and they put the body in, and then they bid me goodbye. And in a day's time, I got a call from UCSF and said, don't do anything. We don't want you to do anything. We will take care of everything for you. And the everything was, noting, letting Social Security know of his passing, filling out for his death certificate, asking us all the questions, and, getting us the death certificate, and kind of sending it to us. And if you could go to the next slide, please, Sandhya. So, these are we have all of these choices to make, right? What should I do at my passing? How should I do it? It could be traditional, that's fine, then you don't need to do anything. It's just going to take care of itself. But then there are non-traditional things, right? Should I gift my body to science? Should I donate my organs? Or should I do something else? These are the kind of questions that we need to ask ourselves, all of us. It's very important. I tell you a story about one of my daughters, the middle daughter's friend. She went to UC Davis for biomedical engineering. And as kids have to do, she was studying late at the library. And she went out on her bike after the library closed, and it was a Friday. And a drunk driver came by, hit her, dragged her a few feet, not knowing that she's right under his car. And, of course, the poor child passes away after a few days in ICU, but she was a donor. So her mother had to make the hard decision of donating her organs. And the person who got her eyes, she asked for an open donation. It can be closed where you don't know who gets the organ, or it can be an open donation. The recipient has to decide also whether they want to keep it open or closed. And, you know, the mother now knows that the daughter is living in other people, right? Has given life to others. It was not wasted life. She was very young. She was only 21. And I thought that was such a beautiful thing. And all my children are organ donors. Um, so that's one of the ways that we can gift our bodies. Why let it go to waste in our end, life? Why? What is the reason for it to go to waste? So that is one of the things that, one can think about. You can be both a organ donor and a willed body donor. The organ donation takes precedence over the willed body. So if you could go to the next slide, please. So his decision, of course, was to gift his body to UCSF Medical School. And it was the best decision. And after like 2 days, I got a card from UCSF. And, this is the card that came in. And if you could go to the next slide, Sandhya. It is like, I want to explain what whole body donation is, right? It's like it allows the medical professionals, and these are not just doctors, these are not just medical students, these are pharmacy students, dental students, physical therapy students who need to learn anatomy. They are all, using this body to learn and practice and improve, for saving lives. And through research and education, they can save lives, even if, it's a disease body, like, it has cancer or something. If it has infection, they will not take it. But if it is, it has, other diseases like rheumatism, arthritis, COPD, all of those diseases can be learned from the human body. And I give at the very end, there is this will body program at the University of Toronto. I looked up a few places in Canada. And, if you just, Google, you'll just find that you can, have this. And you have to call them, because this in Toronto, at the University of Toronto, they need it in your will. And or they need one of your, loved ones to know, and they can just reach out. So I think, just a little bit of homework would help. Anyway, if you could go to the next slide, please, Sandhya. So here is a note, this whole book, this is a 10-page book that they sent me, and it's filled with, notes from the students, it's like, they have all these things like, thank you for your gift that helped us learn so much and will will help in providing care for others in the future. It's so appreciated. And another one is, my time while in anatomy was, was both very informative and special. I look back at my first year of pharmacy school. This is a pharmacy student. And this is the highlight. I gained a greater appreciation for the human body and how unique we are from each other. Thank you for playing a part in this incredible experience. I know everyone is very appreciative. And, the other one is, I cannot thank my donors enough for all that they gave me in my anatomy education. We spent a lot of time with our lovely donors, and it is then I must thank for making me a better physical therapist. So, it's not just medical students, it's different. I picked up from different, areas that they had, and, lots of them, right? Every day I walked into the lab, I would always look at our donors and then out the window to our SFU to take a moment of appreciation. That always gets me, that it's right by the ocean, and, you can look outside to the bay. And the way they do it is that they will keep the body for some time. Sometimes, it's like a year, sometimes a few months. And they then, do, at least at UCSF, every place has it differently. Toronto gives back the ashes. UCSF does not give the ashes. They do a group cremation, and all the medical students have to come there and pay their respect as they are taking them into the cremation chamber. And then they cremate the body and they take the ashes, and the students have to go on a boat along with the ashes, and then they distribute it in the bay. And I thought that was a great tribute, because he would have loved that. So, and if you could go to the next slide, please, Sandhya. This one, really got me. It's like your loved one gave a gift that can never be matched. Thank you is the understatement of the year. These, honestly, we call them cadavers, but these bodies, are so useful. And my middle one, who is a nurse, of course, had to do this. And, she says, Mom, they are just, we learn from them every day. This other one here, the short note, says, I wish I could say a beautiful written thank you, but all I can say is the donation your family member and you gave me is something truly beautiful. It's not just, it's just they are so appreciative of all that, we can give for this cause, that I just didn't realize how, how impactful it would be. And when I saw that, I thought that I should at least, pass this along to our community to give it another thought, right? If you had asked me 2 years ago if I would do willed body donation, I would have to think about it. I would not, I would say, I'm thinking about it. Let me think about it. But after going through this, I think it was the most beautiful thing that we ever did. And I'm so grateful for that. There are a few others in this book, and I just this one that I want to read to you guys. Thank you for through your death, I've learned more about life. And through your body, I have learned more about the human body. And this other one, it says, I feel honored to have been the recipient of your tremendous sacrifice. It is through your life that we learned to bring the gift of life to others. This is a medical student that is writing it. And, it is just something, you need to think about. It's food for thought, right? As to what it is that we want to do with our bodies. Anyway, if you could go to the next slide, please. So organ donation or whole body donation, right? Or both, there are choices here. You can be both. You can be organ donor and whole body donor, but you must register separately for those. So, there is a place, there is a site in website that I have here in my slide for Canada, for Toronto, that will do both, I think. It's called Willed Body or something like that. Trinity. It's Trinity something or the other. And they will do this, both of this. So you may want to look into that. But organ donation will take priority because there are so many people that want organs. And the way organ donation works, at least from my point of view, from the science point of view that I know, is that they have to match the organ donor to the recipient. So they know the recipient type, and it's not just the type. It's like, they do a deep study of their immune response. So there are markers in the body of the person. Of me, for example, I would have what is called, HLA markers, human leukocyte antigens. And these are the antigens. These are the markers that the body recognizes and goes and destroys the tissue that has been donated and implanted in the body. So now they know a whole lot more of which donor matches up with the recipient. So when the donor, gives the organ, and eyes being the simplest because they have the least rejection, but other organs like liver and kidney, they have to be very careful because that will kill the recipient if the body has a reaction to the organ. And they will take the organ and then they will, find the match, and they have the whole database that they will look through for all the recipients. And if there is a match, it goes fast, like within a few hours, the organ is in the recipient's body. And so that takes priority over the whole body donation, but it also depends on the health of the person, right? And if the person died of, a infection, of course, then the donation does not happen, then it can go into the whole body, anatomy and research donation program. So, there are special criteria that these institutes have, and you have to be aware of it. But, all in all, most of them will accept the body. So it's not like, there is a high rejection rate. It's actually the opposite. They make sure, and they make sure to honor the wishes of, the deceased. If you could go to the next slide, please. So key points here, I thought I would, point out for organ donation, like, not all that register can donate. Only a few % will be able to donate because, they have this specific, as I said, medical criteria for that. But it is no cost to the donor family. They accept all the cost, even of the, the disposition of the body, or, they may give you back the body. It depends on how everything is set up. And they also give support for the grieving families. So, you get like, kind of a sense, as I said, that young woman who passed away, her mother had a sense of, purpose then, that gave her some sense of purpose that, her child is living somewhere in somebody else and is not truly, gone from the face of the earth. So those are kind of a few points that, we need to take into account for organ donation. If you could please go to the next slide. So if one decides, to go this path, you do need consent from your loved ones. You have to have them on the same page, you have to have them agree with it, right? They may have their own viewpoints, and you have to kind of talk to them about why your viewpoint is what you want, and can kind of, make them understand. Because after all, my mother, my father are the most important things in my life. My children are the most important things, my husband, right? It's very personal. This thing is very, very close to your heart and close to their heart. We have to respect them too. And then research to identify an institution that you would like to donate to. We could have sent his body to UCLA, we could have sent his body to Stanford, but I chose UCSF, and I got his consent on that, my husband's consent, because I knew that, they were front and foremost in this kind of research for his disease state. And then, start the process and reach out to the institutions. As I said, it only took me 1 week, not even 3 days, actually. I sent the letter, I got an email right back, and I had the form in my hand to fill out. The more, what took more time is to find that uninterested party, So I went to my neighbor and I said, and she's my very good friend and neighbor for 20 years now, and I said, can I ask you for this one favor? Would you do this for me? And she said, of course, Shanavaz, I'll sign for you. And that was it. And I sent it off. I scanned the paperwork and I sent it off to UCSF. And within a day, they responded and said, all right, everything is ready. We are here for you. Whenever it is time, do call us. And I have done the same for myself. And in fact, my children have done the same. We have all willed our bodies to UCSF. And I just sent away my will to them just last week. And I should get a card. I already got a notification saying that the card is in the mail and it's coming. So I'll have a card which I can keep, and give it to my children. And my children can, give it to whoever to get somebody over to take my body. And then, make some, add the information to your trust or will if that is needed. I think University of Toronto needs that. and make a family member or friend the executor or point of contact. And they have to kind of be willing to do that. I wouldn't make my spouse, because who knows how things are going to go. So, and the other alternative, always have like, something else to fall back on. And then have an alternative in case the body cannot be gifted, if the person is outside the country, whatever, then you have to prepare for that too. How do you want your body disposed? Do you want to bring it back here into the country? You want to dispose it over there? And, there are certain costs and restrictions, around shipping the body. So maybe, one needs to be aware of that. And then once you have all this, figured out, then just sit back. Your work is done. You don't have to worry about your final, moments. This is so relieving and so surreal that I can tell you how relieved I feel that I have this will in process and my children don't have to worry about anything. And let me tell you, I wasn't prepared for this. I was not prepared, but it cost me nothing. In fact, all I got was gratitude and appreciation back. And I talked to my husband's PCP. I was asked to go there because, they wanted to make sure I was doing fine. And I told my husband's PCP about what my husband did. And I said, I'm going to be a donor and I'm going to will my body. I said, this was a life-changing event for me. And he says, Shanavaz, I'm doing the same. And he is a Maharashtrian. And he says, I'm a donor and I'm also willing my body to UC Davis because that's his alma mater. He's from UC Davis. And I said, wow, that's great. And says, yeah, once you're dead, why would I waste my body? I want to give it somewhere where, it can be useful. And people just don't seem to be talking about these things. So I thought, maybe I'll reach out and see if I could, just make a few minds change or just give you the information so that you can make your own decision. These are all my viewpoints. I want to say, don't please think that it is something that you need to do. If you could go to the next slide, please, Sandhya. So this is something that I wanted to share with the group. I learned this in my grieving, group that I'm part of. And I really do suggest that if you lose somebody, please go to this, ask your community, your doctor, to make you part of this, whatever grievance or grieving, groups or therapy sessions they have. I didn't do that for my mother-in-law. And I know that, it took me about 7 years to get over her death because we were so close. And, the last moments, it's very, very interesting. The Tuesday, she died, she passed away 3 days after our New Year. Our New Year was 21st of March. I'm Iranian, so, we have Nowruz as our New Year. And she passed away on the 23rd. And on the 21st of March, I never used to make falude, which is, a cold drink that we drink on New Year's Day. And that year I decided I'll make it because, my mother-in-law was diabetic. So I did not want her to feel left out or to feel like, she can't have it. So it's like, okay, just don't go there. Don't do it. But this year I thought, okay, I'll do it. I'll just make it and we'll all have a little bit. And I took it to her in a glass with some sugar-free ice cream. And I said, and she was not moving. She was just bound to the top floor of our house. And I took it to her and I said, let's have some falude today, New Year's Day. And she says, oh, should I have it? And, I'm diabetic. I said, life's too short. Let's just enjoy ourselves. And she says, can I tell you a dream? And I said, oh my God, because she would have dreams and she would tell me and I would get all stressed out because, I'd be thinking about her dream. What does this mean? And she says, oh, I want to tell you. And I was sitting on the stairs next to her. And she says, oh, I dreamt that I'm going to die on Tuesday in 2 days. And I said, oh my God, here we go again. Now, I'm going to be stressed out and all. And she says, do you want to know who is coming to take me? And I said, please don't tell me any of this. My head, bursts. I don't want to know it. Just keep it. Just I don't want to know. Just let's not go there. And we had our Falude, and I left, and I forgot all about it. Come 23rd morning, she's not getting out of bed. And I had a rule that, she has to get out of bed. We had a table right here in the foyer where she could look down, it opens up to the outside of the house. And I said, you have to sit here because you have to be connected with the world. You can't be just sitting in your bedroom. That day she says, no, I don't want to get out. And I said, okay, I'll make an exception today. I'll leave your breakfast here. But make sure you get up at least. And do you want me to call the ambulance? Do you know? She says, I don't want to go to the ambulance, but are you leaving today? She asked me, are you leaving today? And I said, Mom, I'm getting late for work. Of course, it's 9 o'clock. If I don't leave now, I better not go. She says, all right, please just go. And I left. And when I came back, she had already gone, and I didn't remember. My mind had blocked it out. And after many years, I recalled this conversation that I had with her. But I'd already had a conversation of what she wanted to do with her final, her body and all of that. And I kind of wanted to respect it. And yeah, so this is a mandala circle. And I know that, Buddhists and, Hindus probably, I'm not sure, but, they have this where they draw things and make it very symmetrical. One side is symmetrical to the other side. But I learned this in my grieving class where, you can draw a circle and divide it into quadrants. And then you can, write this, please forgive me for. I forgive you for, I thank you for, and I love you for. And I found that very, very, very calming because I started doing that for my husband's, thing. And I said, I have to ask your forgiveness because I didn't listen to you really. I forced you into doing chemotherapy for my sake. I actually told him that I need you to live for me. He didn't want to do it, and I made him do it. And to write that down was very, very nice. It gave me a peace in my heart, and I feel better about it. So I just, I thought I would share this. And, just it's good to kind of get things out. And I kind of do this ever so often. I keep a journal, and I will write this in my journal whenever I feel like I want to put things down in this format. I will put it. Otherwise, I'll write in my journal about my feelings for the day. And I want to see how I progress, because that's what we were told, is that to do it often so that if you are moving away from all this forgiveness and forgivens and all of that into other stuff, right? That means that I'm getting out of my grieving process. So I thought I would just share that with you. And that's my last slide. Any questions? Yeah, this is some information from Toronto. Yeah, Trillium Gift of Life Network is what it's called. And if you want, the website is right here. So Sandhya can send it out, or if you want, I can send out the slide. And you can just click on these because these are all live links. Yeah, Shanta.
I can send this to everyone. And also, I mean, it's such a wonderful talk, Shanavas. Before we go ahead, really, I did not know about this willed body donation. I mean, organ donation here, I don't know about the US. Whenever you renew your license,
Yeah,
and even
yeah,
on the CI in the revenue, when
right,
you file our returns, they keep
exactly.
asking, do you want to donate your organs? So
Yeah,
Yes.
most of would have
it's
done that,
on
I was presuming.
it's on my license, a
I
driver's
didn't know about
license. It's
body
there.
yeah, so the one I didn't know about the donating the body. I didn't know that it was a different process,
No,
but it's
it is
very,
there on the
very
license. When you renew your license, it says you want to donate your organ, or you want to donate your body, or you want to do both. And it's there, and you sign it, and it comes on your license, and there's a code for that. See something, you go and look what it means, and it tells you what it
oh good.
this thing.
Yeah,
I had
because I
done it,
haven't
and I was
renewed
not
my
sure what
license
I
yet.
had done. I went and
I
looked.
haven't good. Yeah, this one I will just share it, and we've also recorded. I'll stop.